Welcome to Off the Shelf Book Talk with Book Lovers. I'm Elizabeth Nelson, and this is Kay Johnson, your hosts. And we'll get right into it. Kay, what are you reading right now?
Well, I have to say that every year about this time, or actually mid-July, I get all excited because Daniel Silva, who writes thrillers, comes out with a new one. Comes out like the third week, Tuesday, the third week of July, consistently. So this year he came out with The Other Woman. And so I thought, ooh, this could be really great. Who is the other woman? And it's like number 16 or 17 or 18 in the Gabriel Allon series. And he is he works for the office in Israel. He's an Israeli agent. He's really an assassin. And he got into the business with the Black September group when they killed the Israeli athletes. And so that's where he learned his trade. And then, so this time around, I'm really excited because, and I normally buy them, download them on my Kindle, so I'm right there. Well, this year, for some reason, I just had a feeling, so I actually got the library book. And I was number 1 on the list, so yay. Hutchinson Public Library, good for you. And a reviewer summed up the book by saying it was a quiet book. And it was. The pacing of it is sort of annoying. I mean, he's usually normally action, action, action. And this wasn't the case. And I stayed with it because I really wanted to see how it ended. But throughout the book, I had a feeling that A, he writes a book a year, so he's really pushed. B, he maybe needs to take a break.
Yeah.
And C, I saw kind of where we were going much sooner than it was unveiled. And so overall, I thought it was kind of disappointing. And so, in fact, so disappointing that I went back and I read his first 4 books in the series, which are really great.
Okay. I've never read any of his, so.
Well, I highly recommend them, provided you like blood and guts, because they kill a lot of people in these books. In fact, I'm sort of thinking, why do I like this guy so much when he's probably killed 100 people. Of course, they're all bad guys.
Yeah.
And stuff, but so I would say that sure, read it and let me know what you think, because maybe I'm missing something. So what are you reading?
Well, recently I finished this one that's sitting back here, Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. And so this woman is, I believe she's a journalist, and so she goes on this cruise ship that's got 10 rooms, and she's sort of on at the last minute, and the cabin next to hers, cabin 10, is supposed to be empty, but she's running around trying to find something before dinner, and she can't find a lipstick or something, and so she goes next door to the cabin 10 and she knocks, and the door opens, and there's a woman in there who loans her lipstick, and she goes back, and then she goes to dinner, doesn't think anything of it, and then when she gets back to her room in the middle of the night, there's a scream, a loud ruckus coming from cabin 10 next door, and then there's a splash.
Uh-oh.
So she believes that somebody has been murdered in cabin 10, and so she calls the staff, and they all come running in, and they're like, well, there's nobody in cabin 10. Uh-oh. All of our people are accounted for, so we don't know what you saw. And so it's everybody thinking she's crazy and her trying to figure out if she's actually seen somebody and then she thinks somebody's messing around with her because all these different things. You got to read it and find out. But I read it. I couldn't put it down. We were up at the cabin for the weekend, and I sat in the chair and I read it start to finish and couldn't put it down. So those are books I think that are really fun, where you sit down and you just can't even put them down.
I totally agree.
Because it's like, I have to know what happens next, but at the same time it's like, I really love this book, but
I don't want
if I finish it, then it's done.
Oh.
And then you have like the post-book reading hangover, where you're like, I don't know what to do now, I'm so sad.
Well, and sometimes I'll read through the book so fast that I have to reread it like 6 months later, because I just need to know what happened, and now I can go back and read it to
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Well, and there was another series I started. The first book is called A Court of Thorn and Roses. It's by Sarah J. Maas. And I started it because when I looked, it said that there were 2 more books. So I was like, oh, this is a series I can read through. It'll be great. And I got hooked on the book 1. Book 2, I like flew through it. And then I went and I realized that the third book didn't come out for 2 months.
Oh!
I was
Oh, stab me!
devastated. I was like, no, I want this book and it's not here. And I got so mad. And Tom's like, why are you mad? And I'm like, this book is not available. And he's just like, it's a
He didn't
book.
get it.
He didn't get it. It was very depressing. And then it's like, what do I read now? And
Oh, I know.
Yeah, but it was good. I mean, her books are fantasy based. So the first one, there's this island, there's this country, and it's divided in half by a wall. And north of the wall, all the fairies and fae live, and all the magical creatures, and then the humans live below the wall.
Okay.
And so they don't get along. There was a big war, which is why they built the wall. And then the main girl, Feyre, is the name of the main character. She's out hunting to keep her family alive, and she kills this big wolf. Well, it turns out this wolf was actually a fairy.
Uh-oh.
And so
Now, is there
this
a
guy
war?
comes and is like, well, you killed my guy, so if you want to save your family, you have to come and live with me in their place, and you can never come back. So she goes up, and then there's all kinds of other stuff going on up there that she gets involved with. But it's just, I mean, it was another one of those that just sucked me in right away. And the writing is great. And she has another series called Throne of Glass, and that's really good too. But I would say that this one I like a lot better. And
So speaking of this type of book, have you
Yes.
read any of Jim Butcher's Dresden books?
I have. I've read a couple. Yes.
Did you like them?
I do. And especially,
I love Dresden. He's a wizard. He's the only professional wizard in Chicago. And he has a business. Like in the Yellow Pages, it say "Wizard for Hire," and he deals with things like werewolves and vampires and witches and fae and all sorts of real life stuff. So what it is it takes place in Chicago, but then there's all these magical things happening. And I don't know, he's written maybe 10, 12 books now. He's got a new one that's coming out, and I keep waiting for it. I mean, talk about pain. You have to check his website, and it's like, we don't have a publication date yet. And I'm thinking, like, what are you doing, Jim Butcher? And then it lists all his personal appearances. It lists all the other kind of books he does.
Well, and that comes down to, everybody's been waiting for the new Game of Thrones. The 6 and 7
Okay.
that in the series to find out what happens. And these he's taking forever on. And I mean, like, he's using like a really old Apple computer, so people are afraid like his computer's going to die or he's going to die. And it's not going to finish it, but it's taking him forever to do this. And then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he releases a prequel. And people are like, why are you writing a prequel? We don't have the finish to what was happening with this. And I mean, I read all of those, but that one, A Song of A Sword of Fire, Ice and Fire, I think is the name of the series actually, with Game of Thrones being the first book. And it just, you got to be dedicated to read through all those words sometimes.
I have never read them, but people have told me that there's just so many characters, and that do the characters change names?
He'll use like a main character's name is Eddard, but then the next time you see him, they use his nickname Ed. Or Ned, or another time they'll be using the person's name, and then they'll use like what they're referred to as, like the king of this, or.
So is there like a listing that gives
There's
all those
a
names?
big chunk in the back that explains how everybody is related.
Oh, okay.
like
so
the
you can
family
refer,
trees
do you
and what
actually
they do.
Go flip back and forth?
Yeah, I actually originally got the first one on as an ebook. And I had to actually go and purchase the actual book because I kept flipping back and forth in the ebook and it got too confusing.
Oh, yeah.
So, but yeah.
So tell me, speaking of ebooks, do you like to read ebooks or do you like to read real books? Because this is an ongoing debate with people.
Yes, I am I'm on the fence. I mean, ebooks for me are really great if I need something convenient, like if I'm somewhere and like if I'm at the doctor's office and I have a really long wait, I have a book on my phone, I can just read. I don't have to worry about sticking a book in my purse. But if I'm at home or if I had to pick, I like holding an actual book. There's just something about holding a book and like the smell of a book, and like it's kind of satisfying to watch your bookmark move all the way to the end. Which you don't really see on a electronic.
Yeah,
I mean, the little bar moves across the bottom sometimes.
Yeah,
but
I can agree with that, because sometimes mine, I use a Kindle.
Yeah.
And it'll say like 12%, 32%, 45%.
Yes.
And then I kind of know where I'm at and stuff. But I really like it because I literally was being overrun with books at home. And I didn't have a place more to put them. And so when the ebooks started coming out, it was like, for me, a real relief, because I could buy them, and you can put, I think, 2,000 books on this little gadget.
Yeah.
Versus, I mean, my whole living room would be books at 2,000 books. So from that standpoint, I really love it because it's convenient. And you know what I really like best is Instant Book. Because like the, the new Gabriel Allon book, when that came out, I mean, I got it from the library, but boy, I have to tell you, I was so tempted to. I mean, because $12.99 later, there's that book, and I didn't even have to go anywhere. I mean, I could sit in my chair, and oh my goodness, how do I love that? But it's also sort of addicting too, because it's really easy to spend a fortune on books if you're not watching it. So I really like Kindle Unlimited, because you pay so much a month, and then you can download as many as you want. So I do that a lot. But I really think it's a great gadget. And when I read a real book, it's like a weird thing, because it's like heavy, and it's like big, and it's like thick. And I have to like readjust, because I'm so used to using this little thing, where I'm just,
Well, I discovered at our house that, you have those boppy pillows that you use for babies. They work great for book rests when you're done
bet they
having
would,
to give a
'cause it's
baby a
right
bottle.
at the right
Sits
level.
right here, you balance the book, you're good to go.
Well, the other thing I really like about this is I bought this one, which is a Paperwhite Kindle, because it has a light.
Yeah.
So when I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't sleep, I no longer have to turn the light on and all this. Now I can just grab this, turn it on, and read a few pages, and it's like, lights out, put the book back, we're good to go. So I really like it. And I also, do you download books from the library?
Yes.
Don't you think that's a great feature?
It is, and I also like that you can get audiobooks through the app, and that I can listen to those, because that's how I do a lot of reading sometimes too, especially if I'm in the car driving from Dassel to Hutch, or if we're going somewhere, I can listen to a book instead of having to find something to listen to on the radio.
I just love it, because to me it's just such an amazing thing, because I can get all these great books, like John Sanford's books. I've downloaded them when they're available. I mean, there so many of them are, you have to get in queue line to be able to get them, but it's fun. I get a notice, your book is available to download.
I like those emails.
Oh, I do too, and I get all excited. And
I also like the ones when it's like, this book is available for pickup at your library.
Oh, don't you love those?
My main problem with that is that I'll order like 6 books thinking, oh, they're all spaced out. And then I forget that, well, the library can order them from other places.
Yes.
So then they all arrive at once. And I have the stack of 7, 8 books, on my side of my table. And then my husband will come home and be like, you don't get to buy any books until you finish the library books.
But I find it really great that the library has the ability to get brand new books for you at no charge. I mean, talk about your tax dollars at work. I absolutely love the library. And like I said, I got the new Dorothea Benton Frank, the new Ellen Hildebrand. What?
You got it right that time.
I did. And the new Daniel Silva. That was probably like $75 worth of books. And 14 days I had them. And so Katie Hiltner is our librarian in Hutch, and I love that girl. She is great.
Up in Dassel too, they have a great little, it's a smaller library, but it's
Well,
great
you just
for
use it
ordering
as a
stuff in.
pickup spot, don't
Well, then I
you?
go in there too. Now that Alex, my son, is going to be 2, it's amazing. But now he likes going into the library. And
Start
we
them
can
young,
go to
Betsy.
the
Start them young.
kids section, and he'll pick. I mean, he can't. Obviously, he's 2. He can't read yet. But
Why not?
he's not. He just can't yet. We're working on it very quickly. No, but he. I mean, he thinks he's reading to himself. He'll turn the pages, but we've started getting books for him, and he really loves it too. And it's fun to be able to hopefully pass on the obsessive reader gene.
Well,
him,
I do think, like I told my mom once that if you love to read, you're never alone.
Yeah.
And you aren't lonely, because all you have to do is flick a switch and you're engulfed in a new world with new people.
Yeah. Well, and it's been fun, like within our family, if we all like a book, or if we all don't like a book, or if we disagree. Like there's the book Enchanted Ink. I don't remember.
Oh my gosh.
I don't remember the name of the author offhand, but
I don't either, but weren't those great?
the main premise is that the main character, it takes place in New York City, and she works for a magic company because she has no magic blood, and so she can catch all of the people who are enchanted. Like there's a guy trying to sneak around the corner here trying to steal something, and she can see him. So she works for this company, and all this stuff starts happening, and she's along for the ride, and they're just great. They're sweet. They're funny. There's six of them, 6 or 7 of them now in the series, and
we all love them.
we had to the person who had the book had to read it faster so the next person could have it, because we had to pass it all around the circle.
Yeah.
And I think when it's something great that you can all share when it's a whole family of book lovers. I mean, it was the same with my sister and I, and like when the Harry Potter books came out, we used to pre-order them, and so they would arrive from Amazon the day it came out, and then she and I would sit on each end of the couch, and we had to order 2 books because you can't share.
No.
And then we would just sit there and read.
Isn't that an amazing thing, though, when you really think about it today? I mean, you can go into a restaurant and you look around, and 3/4 of the people have their faces buried in their phones.
Yeah.
And Harry Potter changed so much. I mean, when that book came out, I remember there were lines, there were people.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like, it would go from 0 to I don't know how many billions.
Well, and I got the very first one, I think, for a gift when I was in 5th grade. So I'm not going to say how old I am, because that's dating how old I am and how long those books are. But I mean, that was from that series. I mean, right from the first paragraph. I mean, it's the Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were perfectly happy with being normal. Thank you very much. I mean, just from that first paragraph, you're like, well, their lives are going to turn bad. I can already tell that because they're not going to be normal anymore.
No, they aren't.
But I mean, even that series, by the end of it, you felt like you were family with the characters.
Oh, totally. And I wanted more Harry Potter books.
Yes.
And so I was really annoyed when she quit.
Well, and I read the script for the Harry Potter and the Cursed Child,
Oh, yes.
and that I did not love. I felt terrible when I thought that as I finished it, because I love J.K. Rowling and I love that universe, but that
Didn't work.
no. And I think that Tom could tell I was upset about it. When he came home, he's like, you just look depressed. And I was like, I finished a book. And he's like, you don't have to say anymore. He's like, I totally understand what you're going through, because you have a lot of book depression. And yeah.
It is true, though. I mean, when you read a really great book and it ends, it's sort of crushing, because now what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Especially if there's no more of those books.
Or you have to wait the year in between books.
Yeah, or if it's a book you really look forward to, for instance, The Other Woman by Daniel Silva, and it ends up being a bust, and then you're depressed because you're thinking, now what? Are we...
Yeah.
What happens?
And I think it's really nice now, because you have the Goodreads app where you can go in and see kind of what other people are saying about books, and you know that you have a way to track it now. But I mean,
I really like Amazon too with their reviews. The only thing, though, is some of those reviews, I'm not quite sure how legit those reviews are, but I like to read them just to get a feel for what people say, because sometimes you'll think, I don't really like this book, and later you'll go, oh, maybe I should have stuck with it. Do you typically read a book from beginning to end, even if you don't like it?
Yeah, I do. I just, there's the people say it's like the page 30 rule, where if you get to page 30 and you don't like it, you should just put it down. I have a real hard time not completing books. I feel like I've given up. And I don't like giving up on books. I mean, I always kind of hold out like it's going to get better. I mean, and that's what it was with like
Always the optimist.
I try. But I mean, there's like with Me Before You by Jojo Moyes.
Oh, I didn't even get to that book. You didn't like it.
No, I read it. I had high hopes all the way through to the end that what was going to happen wasn't going to happen. And when it did, I will say, I literally threw the book across the room when I finished it.
I sat and cried.
I did too, but not with joy.
Cried because I just, and then I had to go do a healthcare directive.
Oh, gosh.
I did. That book forced me to do a healthcare directive.
No, and then I've read the follow-up too.
Oh, I didn't care for those.
No, and I figured out, I was talking to a friend of mine about it, and I think I realized it's that I don't like the main character.
The woman?
Yes. I don't remember her name off the top of my head. But I'd heard so many good things about it, and I wanted to like it.
I love that book. That is like my number one book.
I couldn't do it. And then they came out with the movie, and I was like, well, nobody's going to like the ending of this movie.
I didn't go see the movie. I just couldn't.
It's a good movie, but it's one of those that actually ends the way the book does. They didn't
change that ending.
No, and I mean, as far as books to movies go, it follows along really well, but they don't do that very often, though.
Well, on that
Yes.
note, join us next time for Off the Shelf. Thank you.